Hi everyone, Mike Mal here. I've spoken to so many atheists who were once Christians, or other faiths, and discussed their journey of deconversion. While there are many similarities, each one is unique in its own way. One of the things they have in common is that virtually all of them had that one little contrivance that kept them from making that final decision. That one little something that held them back. Now, to address the elephant in the room, in my experience, that entity for the most part is the fear of hell. The fear of unimaginable torment for an eternity? Certainly understandable. But more often than not, these people bring up something else. Something more concrete than just mere faith. They bring up prophecy. They'd reason, how can prophecy line up so well with so many dates and current affairs? How is it possible if it isn't true? Stay with me on this video and I'll show you not only how it's possible, but how very easy it is. From Daniel to Revelation, the biblical prophecy has instilled both fear and excitement in so many people for the past 2,000 years. Symbolic prophecies preaching the end of time with events to back it up. All kinds of dystopian predictions of doom and gloom. Everything from the United Nations will persecute God's people to Donald Trump is secretly working with the devil to usher in the Armageddon to the Pope is the Antichrist. There's no shortage of divine predictions. The thing that truly bewitches, however, is when prophecy seemingly becomes a reality. When something becomes true, as many faiths claim today. Allow me to refute these claims with a short look into my own deconversion. Like the friends I just mentioned in the beginning of this video, I too struggled with prophecy. Big time. You see, I was born and raised in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and much like other Protestant Christian faiths, Adventists feel they have successfully decoded God's messages through the books of Daniel and Revelation. For those of you that might not know, Daniel and Revelation in the Bible are the supposed prophetic books that speak of the end of time and the time of troubles before Christ returns. In fact, if you go to a Seventh-day Adventist evangelism diligently from beginning to end, and you pay close attention, I promise that you too will ponder with astonishment if there's any truth to this whole allegory. Everything is backed up with dates and actual events. The prophecies that haven't been fulfilled as of yet seem to line up so well with what we watch on the news today. All I can say to that is, holy shit. No pun intended. Not to be accused of being closed-minded, however, I studied the decoding of Daniel and Revelation by other Protestant faiths, namely Baptist, Pentecostal, and Jehovah's Witness. And much to my diametric bewilderment, the same thing happened. Biblical numbers and dates were backed up with actual events that already took place. And the numbers and dates lined up so well, seemingly to a T. And the prophecies that have not been fulfilled as of yet, once again, turn on the news, and there they are. Yet all four of these prophetic decipherings had a completely different result. I couldn't understand how four entirely different decipherings could be backed up with so many events and current affairs so seamlessly and have a different result. I was shocked, to say the least. That is, until I did a tiny little experiment that I'd like to share with you right now. Next time you're doing a wiki search your birth date, the actual day, month, and year of your birth. You will be surprised at how many really cool things happened, besides your birth, on that particular day. After you do that, remove the date from the equation and just search the month and year. You'll be even more surprised when you see the number of events have greatly increased. And then, you guessed it, remove the month and view the year alone. You will be confounded how one single year can have so many significant events. I did this with my own birth date, and my conundrum with prophecy ended. The paradox was no more. You see, any given day, never mind an entire year, has many significant events that can be used to fulfill anybody's version of prophecy. The fact is that so many things happen in one year that the book of Revelation can therefore be made to say whatever you want it to say. Whatever message you want Daniel and Revelation to say can be manipulated and backed up with events. Allow me to illustrate this for you with one example of a prophetic interpretation of Daniel and Revelation. Let's watch this short video and we'll get right back to it. To my atheist viewers, I apologize for the religious interjection. Roll clip.
Many Christians know this prophecy all too well. The head of gold represents the once proud and noble kingdom of Babylon in all its might and glory. The breast and arms of silver was the Medo-Persian Empire that conquered Babylon in 539 BCE. The belly and thighs of bronze was the conquering of Medo-Persia by Alexander the Great and the Kingdom of Greece. Then comes the last great kingdom, Rome. The legs of iron represent the Roman Empire's conquering Greece in 168 BCE. And of course, the feet with mixed iron and clay represents the breakup of Europe into several nations and the emergence of several individual democratically elected countries worldwide. People, however, always look at this prophecy for the material, kingdoms fighting kingdoms. But God is not only the material but also the immaterial. Everyone seems to forget that God always delivers a metaphysical side. To miss this message is to miss the message in its entirety. We know what the material is already, most of it has already happened. We're just waiting on the second coming of Christ. But we must also take a look at what the prophecy tells us from the metaphysical side. Now, if we're going to introduce the book of Revelation along with Daniel, then we must understand that prophecy is no longer a prophecy from days of old. We have to understand that it begins where Revelation begins. Its message is for the church of the last days. So to start, quite simply, the head of gold represents us. The head of gold is the last and final church of Revelation, Laodicea. This is where Daniel and Revelation connect on the metaphysical. And nothing could represent us better than a head of gold. First, being the actual head signifies our society where we work more with our heads than our physicality. Gold, because the fact is, we have achieved greater comfort than humanity ever dared dream was possible. The world has never been more engineered for our needs, desires, and comfort. We are indeed the pinnacle of human achievement. If anyone deserves to get gold, it's us. For the breast and arms of silver, this represents the rise of the emerging economies from Asia, and in particular those in China challenging the traditional dominance of Western powers. Why silver? Because in so many Asian cultures, silver has long held significant cultural and symbolic value. It's not only often associated with wealth and prosperity, but more importantly, spiritual purity. Additionally, the Silk Road was the vast network of trade routes that connected Europe and Asia for centuries, facilitated the flow of goods, ideas, and, importantly, silver. The Silk Road fueled economic growth and cultural exchange between East and West and was the great milestone for China's profound influence on global civilization. And today, as prophecy predicted, China is poised to become the new global superpower. The belly and thighs of bronze signifies the era of technological advancement, in particular the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, and its rapid integration into society. This technological revolution, like the Greek Empire, is characterized by rapid expansion, innovation, and a profound impact on human civilization. Why bronze? Well, first, they lived in the Bronze Age. And the Bronze Age was a period of significant technological advancement. Humans transitioned from using stone tools to tools made of bronze, a stronger and more durable alloy. This marked a significant leap in human ingenuity and technological progress. Just as the Bronze Age saw a leap in human capability through the development of new materials and technologies, the current era is witnessing a much greater leap with the development of AI. The legs of iron represent the awesome global infrastructure of our information systems and technologies, a network so vast and powerful that it literally dominates every aspect of modern life. Just as iron signified a strong and unyielding kingdom in Rome, these systems, from the internet to global communication networks, provide the framework upon which our world operates. They are the conduits of information, the engines of commerce, and the very foundation of our interconnected society, mirroring the strength and pervasive influence attributed to iron in ancient interpretations. The feet of iron and clay represent the rising era of political polarization and global instability. Just as the Roman Empire eventually fractured, the modern world is witnessing a rise in nationalism, populism, and international tensions. This period is characterized by a struggle for power, the erosion of democratic institutions, and the threat of global conflict. It also symbolizes the growing gap between the rich and the poor, the rise of social and political extremism, and the breakdown of social cohesion. This fragmentation, the prophecy warns, will weaken societies to the point of collapse and make them vulnerable to external threats. I really don't need to give too many examples illustrating that this reality is now. You may be asking, if this is all true, then who or what is the Antichrist? To find out who or what is the Antichrist, we first have to look at Armageddon. Because out of the ashes of Armageddon, the Antichrist will rise. To be able to interpret this better, consider this. Current language model AIs are more intelligent than the overwhelming majority of humans, and it's improving at a super rapid pace. It has been estimated that ChatGPT, for example, within a year and a half of the making of this video, will be about 3,000 to 5,000 times more intelligent than the smartest human. With this growth, there will come a time very soon when there will be an explosion of technological growth that is beyond our ability to keep up with. This is referred to as the technological singularity. At this point, there will be a small number of super powerful AIs that will all want to struggle for world dominance. They will consist of the empires listed in Revelation, being America, Russia, and China. This is when Armageddon will happen. While this prophecy predicts a climactic conflict, it will not necessarily be a traditional war. This will include some military actions, of course, but they will be limited, and the predominant battle will be over the struggle for control over technology and its awesome impact and full control of humanity and human culture. Who will ultimately hold the key to life on earth in the last days? God or Satan? I think we all know the answer to that question. Now, the beast emerges from the sea of information. Nothing describes information better than the sea. Trillions, quintillions, countless molecules that just can't be counted or measured in any way. This can be likened to the information highway and countless amounts of bits of information. It is the victor of this battle that will become the Antichrist. And anyone who has an account with this company will effectively be wearing the mark of the beast. Yes, this is true. The mark of the beast is if you have an account with this final great AI company. So it's simple, you say, just don't get an account, right? While this is true, you must remember that those who resist this control will face social ostracism, economic exclusion, and even physical harm, as the Bible predicts. They will not have the ability to buy and sell in a new digital world order, as the Bible predicts, and they will be in a cashless society, again, as the Bible predicts. Their only means of survival would be from either any precious metals they may have, such as gold, or from the secret generosity of strangers. And it's not like the Lord didn't give us clues. Let me ask you, have any of you heard of the Carolingian Renaissance? The Carolingian Renaissance, the first of 3 medieval renaissances, was a period of renewed intellectual and artistic activity within the Carolingian Empire, spanning the 8th and 9th centuries. Inspired by classical Roman, Greek, and early Christian culture, this revival, initiated under Charlemagne, saw advancements in literature, writing, art, architecture, music, law, biblical studies, and even religious reforms. Carolingian schools flourished as educational hubs, preserving and disseminating classical works, both religious and secular, for generations of scholars. Incidentally, even more proof of strength and diversity. But you might be asking, why even bring up the Carolingian Renaissance? What does it have to do with this? Few people know this, but here, in the 8th century, was the birth of artificial intelligence. This is where the idea of autonomous machines was first thought of. Nobody knows who exactly. Some say it was Theodulf of Orleans, who fled Spain during the Umayyad invasion and became a key figure in the Carolingian Renaissance, but there's no way of knowing for sure. And the Bible predicted that its full power would come to fruition after 1260 days, actually years according to biblical prophecy, after its inception. And if we look at when the Carolingian Renaissance took place and calculate 1260 years, wouldn't you know it, that brings us to today. You may be asking, but what about the number of the beast? The ever so infamous, most evil of numbers, 666. What needs to be understood is that the actual number of the beast cannot be determined right now, as the Antichrist has not won the battle of Armageddon yet. But look out for technological signs such as, for example, section 29A. 29A is the hexadecimal code representing 666. It will turn up one day, make no mistake about it.
Be sure to join Pastor Twitsky in our other videos in this exciting series on the Befuddler's Prophecy, right here on the Holy Moly Network.
So aren't you guys like me where you could actually feel your IQ points dropping while watching that video? Like I could feel myself getting just a little bit more dumb. That was a doozy. Oh, and incidentally, for those of you that are wondering what religion that stems from, well, it doesn't. I made it up. That's right, I made the whole damn thing up just to illustrate for this vlog just how easy it actually is. In reality, that prophecy was complete and utter bullshit. Okay, but then what is Revelation trying to say? Why was it written at all? If it's not about predicting the future, then what is the message? Well, let's remember it was written 2,000 years ago by someone named John of Patmos. Likely John the Presbyter, not John the Apostle as many Christians think. John of Patmos was, for all intents and purposes, a kind of Jewish prophet living in exile during an intense time of persecution against Christians. Now, John was writing to the 7 churches of Asia Minor, real places that actually existed at that time. His message was a message of hope for those suffering communities. He was writing about the current affairs taking place with the persecution against Christians by Nero. You remember the lions in the Colosseum thing? Unfortunately, that really happened. So let's look at that number again. The beast from the sea of information, and the all too identifying number 666. A lot of Christian faiths, in fact most in my experience, try to decipher this number using Roman numerals. Honestly, you couldn't be doing anything more silly. In fact, it's so silly it should be embarrassing because the section talking about the number of the beast was written in Hebrew. Ancient Hebrew, but Hebrew nonetheless. It wasn't written in Latin. Why would we look at Roman numerals when it wasn't even written in Latin? Why don't we look at that number again with a different perspective? How all this works is something called gematria. Gematria is a Kabbalistic method of interpreting Hebrew scriptures by replacing the letters with numeric values and calculating the result. You see, ancient Hebrew, just like Latin, doesn't have any symbols for numbers. Rather, they use letters to represent numbers, just like Roman numerals, making gematria easy to use. For example, let's take a look at me. This is how Mike Mal is spelled in ancient Hebrew. Each of these symbols have an associated numeric value. When we add them up together, it adds up to 260. Therefore, the gematria value of Mike Mal is 260. And wouldn't you know it, if we take the official title of Nero Caesar, and calculate the gematria of it in ancient Hebrew, not Latin, you guessed it, 666. Additionally, this is really important, so work with me on this. Have you ever wondered why these numbers were ever construed in the first place as important messages rather than just the scribblings of a madman? Why were they examined and interpreted in the first place? I mean, if you found a manuscript, say, on the street with this kind of writing with wild and fantastic stories, why would you think to look for clues? You see, the reason why is this. John of Patmos wasn't doing anything original. He was doing something that was already in practice by Christians at that time. And that is to write about what was really happening, the true current affairs. Not the lies spewed by the Romans, kind of like fake news versus real news. This was a method used by the Hebrew Christians at the time. It was understood by them that these messages were intentionally written in code so that if the Romans ever caught wind of it, they would think it's nothing more than, well, the scribblings of a madman. The Hebrew Christians knew to look for those particular messages, as it was something in practice. Believe it or not, but the Revelation of John was not the only wildly fantastic book that was reviewed at the Council of Nicaea when they made the Bible. The other ones just didn't make the canon. When you put all these pieces together, it makes it more than obvious that the book of Revelation was writing about the death and oppression that the Christians were experiencing under that time under Nero Caesar. It was never meant to predict the future. So incidentally, what did John say to the suffering communities with these symbols? Well, everyone and their dog has their own interpretation, so I'll give you mine. And that is that Revelation, at its core, is a message of hope for the oppressed and a warning to the oppressors. It's about the ultimate triumph of good over evil, or the victory of God's kingdom. That is, if you believe in God in the first place. Thanks for watching, my fellow apes. Until next time, stay loving, stay skeptical.
Wait. He's an atheist. Don't listen to him. He has no moral compass. He's an atheist.